District Attorney, for having us here. District Attorney Sunday's been a leader and in the forefront of fighting the opioid abuse epidemic in York County, going way back several years when he and Pam Gay, coroner, formed the Heroin Task Force, which I was fortunate to be a member of. Obviously, everyone knows this epidemic has been rampaging through the county and the state for some time now. And one of the consistent things that we have seen during this period of time is that in the rising deaths, obviously, but also a rising percentage of fentanyl that's found in the heroin that is causing these deaths. I'm so honored also to have behind me Representative Don Kiefer, who joined us, also members of law enforcement who are clearly the ones who are the ground forces in this world we wage against this horrible, horrible thing. Heroin abuse, opioid abuse. Through my communications with DA Sunday and Coroner Charlie Hall, as I mentioned, the rising percentages, and our DA is going to go through these charts and explain to you exactly what our legislation does. But I want to tell you a personal story that occurred. We held with Representative Rothman, we held an opioid conference forum roundtable in Camp Hill, and it was excellent and productive. But afterwards, I had a mom come up to me and told me the story of her daughter who was an addict and died unfortunately of a heroin overdose. And she told me something that was really what was compelling and ostensibly was the driver behind this piece of legislation, was that the coroner told her that her daughter had enough fentanyl in her system to have killed 20 people. That was interesting to me, and I talked to the DA about it, I talked to law enforcement about it, and one of the other things I found out is that when someone overdoses on drugs, people flock to that drug dealer. So in order to increase sales, drug dealers will many times put death packets in what they sell. And if someone's an unfortunate person who's rolling the dice in the game of Russian roulette, they may get the death packet and die, which in some sick, twisted way is a drug dealer's way of drumming up business. It's terrible how this has gotten. But these drug dealers need to know that if you are selling heroin, you're selling heroin with fentanyl in it, you are going to go to jail. And that's what this legislation does. It provides minimum mandatory sentencing guidelines for those who distribute fentanyl. They say you can't arrest your way out of this mess that we are in with opioids, but look, we have people who are working full-time to kill our families and our kids. And the only way they're going to stop it is if we put them in jail. We put them in jail for a substantial period of time. So this isn't targeting, I know we've talked many times about this isn't targeting addicts. This is targeting people who are selling these drugs, poisoning our kids, poisoning our families, and ruining our communities. And I'm happy to be part of this. We had every piece of legislation that you could come up with starts with an idea. This started with an idea. It started with me going to District Attorney Sunday first to the DA's Association. They crafted a rough draft of a piece of legislation. We worked on it together, and this is now Senate Bill 1222, and we are hopeful for its rapid passage through committee, on the floor, to the House, and to the governor for signage. I think this makes our community safer. This allows our DAs and our great law enforcement, the guys standing behind me, the guys who are out there doing the work, to know that the fruits of their labor are not going unnoticed, that these cases will stick, these guys will go to jail, and they're going to stop hurting our community with wanton disregard for life. We have to do something about it. I think it's our responsibility as a group to protect PA. So with that, I thank you, and I will turn the podium over to our District Attorney, Dave Sunday.
Thank you, Mike. So thank you everyone for coming today. Thank you, Senator Regan, for everything you've done to not only introduce this bill, but to listen to the needs of law enforcement, and not just law enforcement with regard to sentencing, but also to victims. And that's absolutely critical. It's an honor to stand here in front of all the police chiefs and Representative Kiefer and Sheriff our sheriff, Sheriff Kuhleber. Everyone is here today in support of this bill. Very simply, the takeaway is we in York County are doing everything we can to not only target dealers through arrests, but to do everything we can to also get treatment for people that need it. And so the purpose of this legislation, very simply, is to give law enforcement another tool that they vitally need in this fight against the opioid epidemic that is absolutely destroying the fabric of our community. And the result of this came about, and I'd like you to take a look at the board here. I'm going to come around the podium. So Senate Bill 122, what it does is this bill provides a mandatory sentencing provision for people that traffic drugs with fentanyl in it. And that's important, and it's also important to understand that this is not some, I'm going to say it, a draconian mandatory minimum sentencing provision. This is a common sense mandatory minimum sentencing provision. This is one that gives law enforcement the tool they need to not only put someone in prison and break the cycle of their dealing, but it also gives us the ability to take someone and get them into treatment as well, into something such as like state intermediate punishment. But what I want you to look at over here, these numbers here, this is York County. Back in 2013,